Okay, this is the third lecture, and we're looking at another application of making relevant decisions. Sorry, this comes a lot. Making relevant decisions. So we're looking at this idea of make or buy, and there's just the context of two. The idea of making whether we make something, whether we make and buy something under limiting conditions, with limited resources or without limited resources. But let's first of all just quickly discuss this idea of make or buy. So businesses generally, if they're making, just think of making a major product, and you need that sort of component. Now, you might choose to make the component and then finish making your product, or you might buy in the component and then just make that bit. So the question is, do you make it in-house or do you buy it from without, so to speak? So again, do you make the product yourself or do you concentrate on assembling that? And that's really the issue here. So of course, if you buy the material in, you're really just calling in direct materials, right? It's a pure, straight variable cost, or one of your variable costs, direct costs, marginal, whatever. So the key point is, in terms of behavior, it being variable, as we said, marginal, direct in terms of element. So that's a variable cost. So you also have the issue that if you decide to make it in, well, it's kind of part of your direct materials and direct labor, and all that goes into the actual cost of making the product, plus any variable factory overheads, if you like, that are involved in the making of that product. So you can see that when you make it in-house, you have all these three, and when you buy it in, it's pretty much direct materials. Now, the key point is that we can compare what I just did there. We can compare all these three, can't I, with that and decide, should we make it in-house or should we buy it from outside? Now, I guess it goes without saying that if it is cheaper to buy a product in, then why make it in-house? So if I could go overseas and get the raw materials I need cheaper, then, why spend all that time making it in-house? And that's what this is really asking you to do. You can see again that I have disregarded my fixed costs when it comes to making this decision here. I'm only focused on the variable cost because really that is the equivalent of me buying the product in. It would be just the direct materials. I wouldn't be seeing any fixed costs when I compare the two. Again, and that's what I sort of highlighted here. So again, if we had no limiting factors, well, we can just compare straight away and say, well, that's it. So that's what we're going to do in the very first short lecture. Just compare two decisions with no limiting factors. Okay, so let's see what we're doing here. In make or buy with no limiting factors, the relevant costs, if you like, are the differential costs between the two options. So here we are. This is an example. So KRS Limited, considering whether to administer its own purchase ledger or to use an external accounting service, it has obtained the following cost estimates for each option. And here we are. We have this 320 pounds per annum, 720, 500, and 6,000. So this is the total cost of us doing it internally. And these are all variable costs, if you like, in this argument here. And that's what you really need to watch out for. We are really focused on variable costs. Okay, so here what we have is that we have the external services, and they're sort of doing it on a sort of volume-based and sort of price per item. So this is slightly clearer, if you like, on a variable sort of cost scenario. So we need to compare the two. And so with the two, what I'm doing here is if I compare the internal service cost, I have 320 plus 750 plus 500 plus 6,000, that gives me 7,570, compared to me doing the multiplication of multiplying, if you like, these items. If you can go back and you can see where we've got this figures from. £0, what's the word? £0, 50p times 5,000, 50p times 4,000, £2 times 150 pounds. You can see that those are my 3 items that I've not and that's equal to this, and that gives me 8,100. So it's more expensive for me to go out of the building or go outside of our operations to buy this, to make this product. So the advice is to stay in-house. Of course, we're in-house, so I think these issues, there are other issues to consider. I mean, we will be happier with data security. We're in-house. We need to make sure we have that. Are we good enough to make sure we can ensure we have data security, prevent errors? Depends on how important this. I mean, it's payroll. Software is getting sort of cheaper somewhat, and you might want to consider: do we want to outsource it in the long run? Are we going to get discounts? So there's a few other factors that we need to think about generally. Although, as far as the math is concerned, it is cheaper to make the product in-house. So that's what I'll do. We'll stop there in this first video. In the next video, we'll look at make or buy decisions with limiting factors. So this has been a scenario where we can just make as much as we want, and we can pretty much just compare the variable cost of making the product in-house and the variable cost of bringing the product into the building, and then make a decision as to which is cheaper, and then go from there. Great. I'll see you in the next video.